Yo, good morning. Sheikh Alil, I see the hate starts early. It's all good. Good morning, everybody. Queen Sister Shower, salute to you. Good morning. Howdy. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, and freedom fighters. Salute to Real Eyes in the building. Snapzilla Gorillas in the house. Hitting all upside the head with this morning paper. Trying to clear up some confusion because, you know, that's what I try to do on my channel. I try to get to the, get as close to the truth as possible. Straight Godzilla, salute to you this morning. Salute to you this morning. This live stream is dedicated to all the statists out there that believe in the government system, you know, that knows the government is corrupt, but at the same time they want to use the system that is corrupt to make it not corrupt. And so, you know, it's kind of crazy to me, but you know, hey, this is what a lot of people believe in, right? They believe in using the very system designed to oppress them to try to stop the system from oppressing them. So, you know, I try to put myself in the mind of individuals like that to try to figure out, okay, what opportunities have we had? And when we had those opportunities, did they work? You know, and I find that even when you do have some resistance, even when you do have people that get in government to try to make change and try to do what's right for the people, you know, it gets nowhere because, again, they're up against a system designed to go against the people. And so I wanted to highlight Marjorie Taylor Green because during, you know, she has been outspoken in a lot of different ways against establishment Republicans. She's a Republican herself, but she has presented herself to be one of those types of individuals that will go against her party to try to do what's right for the American people. Whether we believe that Marjorie Taylor Green is one of the actors, you know, one of the people that playing the game, you know, the dog and pony show that we talk about. We talk about the kabuki theater that the government puts on to convince people that this left-right paradigm is actually a real thing. Yeah, so Marjorie Taylor Green presents herself as one of those types of people, just like AOC and the Squad, right? Those years ago that presented themselves to be progressive and we're the Squad, we're gonna bring real change. But when it came down to it, Nancy Pelosi put them in their goddamn place. At the end of the day, it really amounted to not very much. But Marjorie Taylor Green has taken. She has said a lot of things. She has, especially with the shutdown. She's talking about people deserve health care. She's talking about, the people are struggling, her constituents, and even her own children, right? Like, she has adult children that she says is struggling because of government corruption and not putting the people. Yeah. Anyway, y'all, had to reset the system. You know what I mean? And of course, I lost quite a few people in the process, but this is part of the game, right? But listen, Bernie Sanders, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Green, these people present themselves all the time. They put themselves out there. They speak to the people, right? Someone says stop. No, you get the fuck out of here. No. And don't come back because I blocked you. That means you can't come back. That means you won't ever be able to write in my chat again. Bottom line to it. So if you want me to stop, you take your ass on, you scroll up, you move on. You don't have to, you make those types of statements, I'm gonna get your ass out of here, you can't come back. Unless you make yourself another page and then come back that way. Anyway, so these people, they do that, right? But at the end of the day, when people put themselves out there like that, whether they're authentic or not, whether they're genuine or not, whether they're playing the game or not, what do? The people that believe that we can get positive change done, all we got to do is put the right people in place. Well, when those right people get in place, or it appears place, and they are in the severe minority, what do we do when they get shut down? What do we do when they get ousted? What we don't do anything. Nothing gets done, right? So with an example of Marjorie Taylor Green, who's actually blaming her own party, who's blaming Donald Trump for this government shutdown, well, who's really going to have her back when they go in on her ass? They already are treating her. They're already ostracizing her, right? But this is what they've been doing. They'll talk all this shit, make her look crazy, right? She might have support from her constituents in her district because they see that she's speaking up for them, but that's not going to do any good, right? Because it's just individuals in one district. That's not going to move the needle. It's not going to move the needle at all, right? And obviously, if she's in the minority within her own party, within Congress, it's not going to move the needle either. And this is what I be talking about. This is why I say, yeah, you can put the right people in place, but they ain't going to do shit. Because they have safeguards and systems in place to keep you in place. And if you get out of pocket, they will make sure you don't get shit done at all. They will not. No, it's not going to work. Salute to Black Spring with Autumn in the building. So even if Marjorie Taylor Green is authentic and genuine, it's not going to matter because she is going to get shut down. Nothing that she wants to get done will get done. And it will not, nothing will happen in a positive manner. It's just the bottom line to it. You know why? Because her people elected her as their representative. And so this is what people do. Instead of acting on their own behalf, they want to pass the buck to a Marjorie Taylor Green and say, you know what, we elected you. You're our representative. Go out there, represent, make shit happen. And she might very well do that. But you're just one district. You exist within one district in Georgia. Not going to move the needle. Her party members are not going to give a shit. The Democrats are not going to give a shit. But in reality, this is what should happen when a Marjorie Taylor Green steps up and people see that she's actually going to bat for her people. Not even just her people, for people in general. It shouldn't matter what party you belong to. It should not be a partisan issue, right? That people are struggling. The inflation is too high. All these different things, government shutdown, all these layoffs, all these jobs lost. Shouldn't be a partisan issue, right? What the issue is, our government has gotten us into a lot of shit, has gotten us into a lot of trouble. And there are changes that need to be made. And I'm talking about significant, long-lasting changes. And when people like Marjorie Taylor Green step up and they express these things, we want to make it partisan. Oh, well, she's a white lady who looks like a gorilla. Oh, she's an ugly white bitch, right? This is what they'll say on the Democrat side. Even though she's speaking more to your interest than some of your own Democrats, right? She just being real. Like, people are struggling. We have a healthcare problem. We have a health insurance problem. Bada boom, bada bing. But we don't want to take the message and say, look like she's trying to make shit happen for the people. It looks like she's trying to put partisan politics aside and actually represent the people that are in the the middle America, the shrinking middle class, right? Oh, well, she's a Republican and she's white and she looks crazy. She had an argument with Crockett. Oh, she's going back and forth with the Crockett lady. Oh, the Black Queen, right? But what is she doing? None of these people are really doing anything. They're so busy they're fighting amongst each other. They're bickering back and forth about bullshit. Because, of course, like I said, it's all part of the dog and pony show. It's all part of the theater, right? To convince you that, oh, if we have division up here in Congress, there has to be division down there amongst the constituents. This is a perpetual problem. This is why you will not get shit done in a positive way using the government, using the system that's in place. The system that is firmly entrenched, the system that is built on a foundation of corruption, corporatism, corporate welfare, special interest groups being involved, the banks being involved in day-to-day government activity, fiat currency, all these things that they have done to create these problems that we're having with inflation and the price of shit going up, devaluing the dollar because we're diluting it. We're diluting the dollar. They are printing money. They are adding ones and zeros, right? They are doing the quantitative easing to put more money into the system. Diluting this is what the government is doing. All the spending, we're spending money we don't have, right? And we talked about this. I talked about it 5 years ago when Donald Trump signed that $6.2 trillion, stimulus package, right? And I told you guys, look, man, this is going to increase the hidden tax. The hidden tax known as inflation. Because when you add money, right, when you add currency to the money supply, but you're not adding any value to it because you're not increasing what that money is supposed to be backing, right? You're just printing money. You're printing money left and right. That is going to devalue the dollar and things are going to cost more. Because the value of the dollar is going to go down in relation to what you find to be valuable. Food, energy, supplies to build houses, All these things are going up, right? Not because they're worth more. No, because the value of the dollar has gone down. And that is the crux of the problem, right? That's why we have this inflation. That's why healthcare costs are going up. That's why the cost of drugs are going up. That's why everything is rising. The cost of eggs, the cost of a ground of beef. No, it's just beef has always been worth what it's been worth. Eggs have always been worth what they're worth, right? Lumber has always been worth what it's worth. It's just that the dollar can't keep up with the value because they're too much in circulation, because it's fiat currency. And the Federal Reserve can just do what they want, right? They can do whatever they want with the money supply. The money supply is much higher than the goods they are supposed to purchase. That is where it comes to. And when people like Marjorie Taylor Green, a representative, tries to point these things out, well, it won't get her very far, because the focus is not on what she's saying. It's not focused on the truth and the facts behind what she's saying. The focus is on, well, you're a Republican. So she's getting it from two different barrels, right? She got two barrels pointed at her. Well, she's a Republican. She's not supposed to be talking about the healthcare crisis. She's not supposed to be talking about, oh, we got a healthcare issue. We got, these people need healthcare. She's not supposed to be talking like that. She's not supposed to be going against her party. So she got barrels pointed at her from her own party members. At least Marjorie has a backbone. It would appear she does, right? Because obviously that's part of the stage play. There has to be someone in there that acts like they're actually for the people. Whether they are or not remains to be seen. But it's not going to matter. You know why? Because the people, they ain't going to do shit about it. They know that. Yeah, we'll let Marjorie Taylor Green talk all this shit. We'll let her get up there. We'll let her talk about the Israeli genocide. We'll let her talk about how her own party leaders are fucking up. She's going against her own party leaders. So she's going to get flack from her own party. And simply because she's a Republican, the Democrats, they're not going to back her ass up either. And the people that, the people amongst us, we're not going to have her back because she's a white Republican, right? Black folks. White folks, white conservatives, they're looking at her like she's, you're not supposed to go against your own party. This is the bullshit that we face every day. I need to run for office for what? So that so I can speak for y'all, and then y'all won't have my back like y'all won't have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene's back and Ron Paul and Rand Paul. For what? Run for office for what? I'm gonna run for office, get in there, and be faced with all this shit. The special interest groups that lobby, the corporations, the status quo that's already established, the established status quo. You're a Georgia constituent. I don't need to run for office because y'all ain't gonna have my back. Y'all ain't gonna have my back. No, y'all gonna fall for the okie doke. You know what I'm saying? There was a guy who ran for office against Raphael Warnock and these other fuckers in Georgia, a libertarian, right? He did some things within his own city that I feel like was a great idea. Something to do with the police officers, putting their ashes on a leash, putting the popo in check, and other things that he did. He said a lot of great things while he was up there, running as a libertarian, trying to get elected. Of course, it's not going to happen because he's not a Republican or a Democrat, right? He's talking about smaller government, reducing government spending, reducing taxes, all these different things that he did in his own little town. He tried to do it on. He tried to get it on the world stage, and he talked to you guys about it. No one gave a shit. No, they didn't. No, if you ain't running as a Republican or a Democrat, you ain't getting nowhere. Even if you run as an independent and get elected, and you go into the halls of Congress, and you look into the left and to the right, and you're supposed to be in the middle, and there's no one there with you but a few other people, you realize, well, shit, I ain't gonna get shit done. There's no possible way. We're never gonna have the majority. We're never gonna have the control of the House or the Senate. Never. Y'all can hit the. Why don't y'all double tap? Double tap the screen and hit your boy off with a like. It's free. Everyone's a politician. Well, that's what they're going into office for, to become a politician. I agree with that aid of crocodilia. They are. But I'm saying, let's say Marjorie Taylor Green was authentic and genuine about caring for the American people. Y'all are not going to, no, y'all ain't going to back her up. Yeah. Barack Obama. The Obama phone 16 was just released. That's what's up. Well, see, that's what I'm talking about. Safwat Newman, MTG. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut eventually. That's what I'm saying. Right? Because you guys are not going to have her back. Right? You're not going to back her up. Right? She's going against all this adversity against her own party. Who essentially she's blaming her own party for the shutdown because they're playing these games, right? Sarah Jane said exactly, less voting is just giving people the illusion to have a choice. Sarah Jane. That's all it's doing. So when you people in place, because let me understand this, the right person is not the perfect person. They're not going to get everything right. They're not supposed to. They're human beings. But when they essentially are trying to have the government work for the people and they get resistance, y'all ain't going to do shit but sit back. Because in your mind, well, if I just vote, I did my thing, I did my job, I voted for this person to get in office. I'm supposed to take the wheel from here and get it cracking. Well, that's not how it should work. It should not work like that. A representative, but at the same time, when she speaks truth to power, he or she doesn't matter. When they actually try, it appears like they're acting on your behalf in the halls of Congress. Then that's when you're supposed to step up and let them know, look, she's on the right track. This is what we want. I'm lagging. Crystal Maldonado says it's performance politics. I agree with that. Am I lagging? No, so I can make an adjustment. I'm lagging. Hold on. Helps. Let me know if I'm good, if I'm coming clear. Hold on. Let me know. Ziggy Z88 asks, what is a pirate's favorite letter? R. Thank you, Black Spring. Thank you for letting me know. Now, Marjorie Taylor Green is just one example, right? And she just happens to be, you know, an example of a person who's still alive, that's resisting, right? That is putting up a little bit of a fight, right? But then you have those individuals that try to do certain things to buck the system, to expose what's really going on, right? And then guess what happens? You would think, oh, they're the right person. They're the right person. They put that person in place to expose what is really going on behind the curtains. Right? And then what do? When that person is actually trying to get some shit done and they're actually trying to expose the system and they're for real, they get taken out, right? Yeah, Crockett has the bigger cojones, but y'all ain't gonna back her up either when she gets it right. Salute to you, Jamal McClegan. I appreciate you. Really, are you giving Democrats props for resisting? Sure. No, I'm not giving them, because again, this is a left versus right paradigm dog and pony show. I'm giving you an example of a woman within the Republican Party that is going against her own party, putting up a fight. Jasmine Crockett is doing what Democrats do. So this is the game. The game is they're going to blame, right? They're going to put the blame on the shutdown on the Republicans. They want the shutdown to happen so that it appears, oh, look at what the Republicans doing. They're fucking us off with this shutdown. And the Republicans are going to blame the Democrats for the same types of reasons. The bottom line is this, man. When you actually, so when they kill you, when they kill the person that's actually trying to get exposed what's behind the curtain, expose the real corruption, let you know what's really going on, like let's say JFK. Did anybody do anything about that? No, they just sat there. Oh, look, JFK is dead. Now, mind you, back in those days, you really weren't sure why JFK was killed, right? They told you Lee Harvey Oswald, wherever the hell that guy's name is, killed him. And even back then, to a lot of people, it didn't make sense. Back then, to a lot of people, there were a lot of red flags. But what did the people do about it? Not a motherfucking thing. It was business as usual. No one did anything. Are we talking about conspiracies? Sure, why not? What are we going to do? Not a fucking thing. Right? That's why you can't, when you put the right people in place and they don't get shit done, it's business as usual. Yeah, they went back to sleep, just like we gonna do. Right? No one's talking, like, yeah, people are using Marjorie Taylor Green to shit on Republicans and say, look, the Democrats are doing it right because Marjorie Taylor Green is blaming it on her own party. And so what do? They perpetuate the division. They continue to uplift this system. But when the Democrats get into power, because trust me, Democrats have been in power many times in the history of politics in the United States, right? It goes back and forth. Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. At the end of the day, no real change occurs. It's still the same shit. It's still APAC. It's still Big Pharma, Big Oil. All these, that's who the banks. That's who really gets shit done for them. That's who the government truly works for. We're just tax cattle. We're just extortion victims. We keep the system alive, right? They use us, but we get nothing in return because we're not supposed to. But when those people get in there and they talk that shit and they go against their party and they say and they point things out, they point out the obvious. We say, "Yay, look at her," or some say, "Oh, she's a traitor to her party." But at the end of the day, nothing gets done. Yes, Mystic City, tax cattle. What do we get in return, Mystic City? Exactly, Black Spring. It's a cycle. Mystic City thinks we get something in return. What do we get in return? What does the government provide for us that we can't provide for ourselves? Right? That's my question. Damn it. That's a serious question. Every city or village in the world 100 years ago was quite unsafe. Mystic City, where do you get that information? Every city or village in the world 100 years ago was unsafe. 100 years ago? What? No, safety, water, sewage, etc. No, they had sewage systems thousands of years ago. Yeah. Irrigation, all those things. You think you need government to have sewers and irrigation and to get clean water? This is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. The government didn't provide that. People provided that. Engineers and people that work with their hands, not the government. Did the government commission that stuff? Sure, but they did not build it. No, they hired private contractors. They hired private individuals that know how to do those types of things, that figured it out. Skillifava says irrigation ain't sewage. Who said the fuck it was? That's why I said them in two. I said irrigation and sewage. Did I say that irrigation was sewage, you fucking asshat? What the fuck are you talking about? Who said that sewage was irrigation? What are you talking about? We need at least a peaceful society to make sewage channel systems. So you think we have a peaceful society right now? This is a peaceful society? You think the government is providing us with a peaceful society? Skillifava says, the guy said sewage. Why the fuck you said irrigation? Because I fucking can. I'm a grown ass motherfucking man. If I want to say irrigation, I can. Irrigation, sewage. You know what irrigation is? Plumbing overall. Creating systems to bring water to a location and get it out. Whatever the case may be. Cycling water through. Because it's not just sewers. Plumbing in general. When you have plumbing, you don't just have sewage. You have the plumbing supply that brings fresh water to a location. And then when you have wastewater, you shit and piss in, the sewage gets it out. You think the sewer is just sewage? Or when you have a sprinkler system for your garden, and you have to get water uphill and water downhill and get water in specific locations. So you think just sewage. If I want to add irrigation, I can do that. I'm a grown ass man. Ask me some stupid ass fucking questions. What is my solution for creating a better government? Eradicating government. Getting government the fuck out of here. Cut out the middleman. What do I need the middleman for? The middleman does nothing but take what you have. You need a service. they'll take their cut from the top, and then they'll pay the contractor to do the building. So let's say you need a hospital, you need a road built. Okay, the government is going to hire a private contractor to pay the road, but they're going to see, if you cut out the middleman, you are responsible for hiring the right contractor. You are in charge of the bidding process. So guess what? You're going to save money, and you're going to ensure that you're hiring the right contractor, because you're taking the responsibility for yourself. You're not leaving it up to the middleman, who is going to, he is going to skim. He is going to highly inflate the cost. And then guess what? By the time he pays a contractor, you didn't pay. Somebody said, shut up. All right, urban cultivator, get the fuck out of here. Arrivederci. Goodbye. Sarah Jane says, then I agree. We definitely need term limits. Good luck with that. Do you know what it takes to get term limits? You need to amend the Constitution to get term limits. And that's a highly involved process. I don't think how that works. You don't think what is how that works? What are you talking about? We fought a revolution to free ourselves from a tyrannical monarchy, only to turn around 10 years later to institute an oppressive central government. Exactly, Ross. Exactly. But was that the intentions of the forefathers? Because they didn't want political parties, but they created a system that made that possible simply by creating a central government with a constitution and all that bullshit. The contracting process says, well, I actually work in construction, so I know how the process works. If there is a government project, like I've worked on multiple infrastructure build projects, where contractors and companies got money to perform, to carry out these contracts for the infrastructure bill, and they hire private contractors. Private. All they do is the government funnels the money from the people, and they pass it on to the contractors or the developers that hire the contractors. So the developers get the money, and then they hire the contractors. Yeah, I've worked on multiple projects where the government was involved. The contractors I worked for, yeah, they're not government entities, they're private. So that is how it works. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that Congress can be given mandatory term limits only through constitutional amendment. Exactly, Joe Butler. You need to amend the Constitution. The REIT says, there's 2 of each state. 2 of each what state? Whatever. It is what it is. The bottom line is, y'all get these people that y'all feel we want to put the right people in place to make positive change, to get the government to work for us, right? That's what we want at the end of the day. That's what the statists want. They want the government. They want to put the right people in place. That's why you vote, right? You vote for who you think is the best person to act on your behalf. The problem is, after you vote and those people get in place, we've been on the contract from the government. I get full contract from the RFG, and I delegate. Essentially, I'm the middleman. You get the full contract. Do you work for the government? You just proved what I said. You got the contract from the government. The government initiates the bidding process, or the developer, the private developer that gets the funds, or the private owner that gets the funds from the government, like on the solar panel factory that I was part of getting built. was a Korean-based private organization, South Korean-based. They were provided the funds to build this entire campus where they were going to build solar panels from start to finish. They hired a general contractor, right? They hired a general contractor, private general contractor, who then hired subcontractors to perform their own separate disciplines of contracts. Electricians, plumbers, mechanical, right? Structural, concrete. Yes, they're all private. None of those are government. Well, the Korean company was the middleman. No. The government was the middleman. No, the government was the middleman. No, the government is the middleman. The government is the one that ain't doing shit. They're just taking the money from you and then they give it to the people that get shit done. That's what you call the middleman. All right, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I'm going to put you on timeout for 24 hours. Yeah. Penny Forethought says, you make no sense. Well, neither does your mama when I make her bust nuts. She's speaking all kind of tongues. The government extracts by force the wealth from the people. Then they give it to private contractors to build shit. Point blank and period. Whether they pass it off to a private developer or they hire the general contractor directly, because they'll do that as well. That's just how it works. The government is the middleman. Period. Yeah, private contractors, they're going to charge up the nose because they know that they're getting the money from the government and that it is what it is, right? The government is going to, and then what they do with these private contractors, they also are involved in lobbying as well. Like Nika. They give politicians donations. They lobby in Congress as well. Big construction, all these individuals, all these private organizations, they get kickbacks. The politicians get kickbacks for, and then the bidding process in a lot of times are rigged. It is what it is. Same thing the mob does, right? With the unions in certain states where a lot of the bidding is rigged, right? And they get all these kickbacks from these contracts, the inflated contracts. The government is the mob, y'all. That's what you guys don't understand. You want to tell me the government's not the middleman when they are. The middleman denotes an individual that is unnecessary in the process, right? Because you need someone that knows how to build something to build something. But before that, you need a designer, right? You need a designer or an architect or an engineer. You need all those individuals. You need an engineer, you need the architect. You even need the private developer because they have the vision, right? They have the vision, okay. They have the vision. They have money as well, right? They can front a lot of the cost because guess what as well? When there are government contracts, when you work on these government construction sites, if you're going to be a contractor working on these construction sites or an owner or a developer that's paying the general contractor and the general contractor pays the subcontractors, they have to have their own money up front because the government is slow to pay. They're slow to pay. They're slow to pay. So you get paid in phases. You get paid when certain things, when you complete certain phases of the project. The government, you gotta be able to front load that money to pay for the material, to pay for the workers, all that shit, pay for permits, pay for inspections. You're paying every time you do something. So you got to be able to front all those costs. You can use credit or you can use your own capital. Well, these private owners, they'll have that, right? And they're going to get paid by the government, but they're going to mark shit up. Do you understand what I'm saying? Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. I got to relieve myself. Sukai says, the government used to do a lot of their own upkeep, but the cost of business got greedy and they were lining their pockets. So they thought that getting rid of government works would end that. Nope, with private. Huh? Most of the solar comes from China, built there. Well, no, they're building solar panels right here in the United States, and there are Korean companies building these solar panels. Salute to Mind Man Samusa. The government is the middleman, point blank and period. Moorish Prince says, and the contractor charge way more than no. Yeah, they mark up. So let's say there's multiple types of contract. There's plan spec, there's as built, right? So if it's a plan spec, if you're a subcontractor, well, the general contractor usually hires an engineering firm or an architecture firm. They provide the plans and all that shit, and they give them to you, right? And then there are contracts where you're responsible for purchasing the material. So all the material purchases and the equipment is, like, say, for an electrical contractor, you can have a contract where either the general or the owner is paying for all the material, right? Or you are paying for it. You're responsible. You have to get submittals done, right? You got to provide submittals for all the material, but you're responsible for purchasing. Well, if you're purchasing, you can mark up the cost of that material. Yes. The government don't give a shit, right? So, if you are a subcontractor and you are responsible for purchasing material, you can make a lot more money because you can mark that shit up. Yes. Valerie Brown says that's right. Normally 30 to 90 days from the government. Hell, there were contracts that were 60 days or 6 months. You don't get paid for 6 months. It is what it is. So the owners, the private owners, that the government is hiring, depending like Scout and all these, they consider that part of the infrastructure bill, building solar panels and renewable energy and all this different shit. They're getting money from the government. And then when they built these factories and plants, the government makes the people pay for their energy costs. That's how they call it incentives, or they call it government subsidization. The government subsidizes this shit, right? Which means that if they build a factory or a plant, a private organization owned by Bill Gates and all these other, like the data centers, they're building these data centers all over the place, and they're using government money, which means your money, to build these data centers. So they'll hire companies owned by Bill Gates and others to build these data centers. Well, they got their own money. So guess what? They'll pay all the upfront costs, and then they'll get their money back from the government in 30 to 90 day increments. But it costs the government money when they do it that way. They're going to charge you more, right? So when they build these data centers and the data centers are done being built, it's going to take so much energy to run those data centers with all those servers and all the air conditioning, the crack units and the crawl units, the computer room air conditioners and the computer room air handlers, because it's going to be hot as hell in there. They got to keep it cool. And you got all the power and energy going into running those servers. And they're storing all this data, and they're making all this room for all this AI. Yeah, these data is going to it's going to cause a lot of energy costs. And they're passing most of that cost onto the people. That's what the government is doing. So these billionaires that are running these data centers, billionaires, they're not going to be paying their own energy costs. We are. I'm sorry, but I can't celebrate the Thanksgiving because they starved people and mass killed their, yeah, well, they did do that. Yes, Ross. Public-private partnership. The people pay and the private sector reap the benefits. Why do we need these data centers? We have been doing, well, we ain't been doing just fine, but I mean, we have existed without all these data centers for how long? Hundreds of thousands of years. But yet they continue to industrialize. They continue to modernize, right? What are data centers? Well, it's basically buildings, right? Buildings where they're going to have a lot of servers, just a shitload of servers, right? It's servers, storage space, right? They're going to have storage, servers to help run shit, because the more terabytes and all this other shit, when you run computer programs, it's getting more advanced and more sophisticated. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of storage, it takes a lot of processing power. So basically these data centers are being built to provide more processing power and storage and server space for all the AI and collecting of your data. They need to collect and store your data, and they need to run these AI programs, which are, they're getting more and more sophisticated and evolving. It takes a lot more energy as well. That's what these data centers are for. Yes, mass surveillance centers, but not just for surveillance. Data collection, running AI, running all these computer programs, all this cyber stuff that they're doing, the Internet of Things that they want to create. They want the Internet of Things. They want every single thing that you do in your life to be connected to the Internet. They call it the Internet of Things. It gives them more access to your life, right? So if they want your cars, they want your entire house, they want your bicycles, they want your refrigerators, they want your TVs, they want your goddamn everything connected to the Internet of Things. They want to run all this 5G. It's going to take a lot. So 5G does not have very much range. 5G doesn't have a lot of range. So the problem with that is they're going to have to put up more 5G towers all over the place. And they're going to need more data centers. Because, see, it's almost like when most of the electricity was running on direct current, what happens is it's direct current, but you need larger cables and more generators in place to run more power to different locations. But they discovered alternating current, which carries electricity a lot farther on smaller wires with less substations and less generators. Well, with 5G, it's the opposite. With 4G and previous, you had data travel farther with less towers. Well, with 5G, it has a shorter range, more power, but shorter range. So they need more 5G towers, way more than they needed 4G towers and less. 4G, 3G, 2G travels way further. Those are microwave transmissions, right? Microwave. So 4G, 2G, 3G all ran on microwaves. So microwaves penetrate further, they travel further with less power. So with 5G runs on millimeter waves, bigger waves. And 5G, like a bush and a tree, will block 5G transmissions. So they need to put more 5G towers, like every 50 feet, every whatever it is, so that it can travel. So there's more 5G everywhere. And when you put more and more towers up, it takes a lot more processing power. So they need these data centers for that as well, right? So 5G runs on millimeter waves. Millimeter waves, they don't penetrate as well as millimeter microwaves, and they're easily blocked. Like, you throw some Venetian blinds up in your house, through your window, it won't go through Venetian blinds. Oh my God. This madman says we are not cooking TV dinners. What the fuck are you talking about? Radio waves aren't microwaves. Okay. No one is talking about radio waves. I'm talking about what 4G runs on and 5G runs on. 5G runs on millimeter waves, right? It's the size of the wave, you numbskull. It's the size of the wave. Radio frequencies run on waveforms. So you have microwaves and millimeter waves. It's just how big the wave is. How high the wave is when it travels. What? Oh my goodness. I don't. Oh boy. Lord help us. Y'all hit the like button. Y'all hit the like button, please. This guy. Radio waves aren't microwaves. Who's talking about radios? I'm talking about what your cell phones run on. Ovens aren't microwaves either. Who's talking about ovens? Y'all are ridiculous. Terry Gibson says we don't know what those waves are. Okay. Radio wave. It's still a wave. I'm talking about the size of the wave. How, how big the wave is. Is it in micro scale or milliscale, like millimeter or micrometer? It's still a wave. Radio waves are waves. The size of the wave is what I'm talking about. The size of the wave. Radio wave. Radio wave. Radio is not a size. Oh my God, bro. Anyway, but the bottom line is this, y'all. Oh boy, I'm talking about how 5G runs on larger waves than 4G and lower. The waves that 4G run on go farther and penetrate more readily, as opposed to 5G, which runs on larger waves and do not penetrate as well, so they need to install more. That's the fucking point. There's a lot of different kinds. Anyway, so going back to what I'm saying. Wow. And then they have different frequencies, right? How fast they travel, how fast the waves go up and down. I guess you guys are going to tell me that there is no frequency to radio waves. So radio is the size and it's the frequency, right? Is that what you guys are going to tell me? Even though when you go to your radio station, it shows you the different frequencies that you can pick your radio stations up on. But I guess that's not a real thing. I guess there is no frequency to the wave. I guess there's only one. There's a radio wave and there are every other wave, right? Radio waves is radio denotes the size and the speed, right? Jesus fucking Christ. Size and frequency are the same thing. Dude. Y'all got to be trolling at this point. So now size and frequency is the same thing. Size and frequency is the same thing. Mediocre Dude says yes. Well, Mediocre Dude, that is an apt name for yourself. There's no up and down size. Oh God, dude. Yo, I can't. This is crazy. Y'all, this is fucking nut. Tell me that y'all are fucking trolling. Now you're going to tell me that frequency and size are the same thing, right? Like in an algebra equation, y and x are the same. Is that what you're trying to tell me? The wavelength is not. Y'all are trolling. The wavelength, not wave height. Wavelength, not wave height. So you now you're going to tell me that the length of the wave going this way. Like if you look at a wave and you write it down or you draw it on a piece of paper, the length of the wave, let's say the wave travels 200 feet, but it only goes up and down, right? From peak to valley is, let's say, 5 millimeter. So you're telling me that a 400 foot, tell me y'all are not saying that the wave length and the wave height are the same. Tell me y'all are not saying that. It's hilarious to me. I can't help it. I can't help it. I have to. Thank you, Sukai. Frequency is not size. listen, I can't help it, right? Short waves are more frequent than long. Oh my God, bro. Yo. All right, so listen. In America, typically, right, when you have like our electrical system in America, like a house, you might have like a single phase, right? Single phase, right? You have a single phase panel that runs on total 240 volts, right? At 60 hertz. 60 hertz is the frequency. The voltage is 240. So the voltage and the voltage, I'm done. Because it's alternating current, alternating, right? So it's a wave, whereas direct current is pretty much straight. Right? So in like the UK, they have 50 hertz. Their electrical system runs on 50 hertz, but they might get like their nominal voltage might be 210 or something like that. A single phase 210 panel, right? Or you can have a three phase 480 three phase panel, but it's still running on 60 hertz. So that's the wavelength, or the frequency is 60 hertz per second. That is what it is. But the wave size has nothing. I mean, the wave size is separate from the frequency. So whatever the load is drawing, whatever the demand of the load is, like a heater or a television or a microwave or a refrigerator, they have different demands, right? They require, they have, it's called watts, power or watts, wattage. And how you get your wattage is you multiply your voltage times your amperage. That's going to be what your watts are. But it's just constantly running on 60 hertz. But that separate load might have a different wave size. The wave might go higher or shorter depending on what the load demands. Well, it's stepped down from a transformer. I'm talking about after the transformer. So you got a transformer on a pole, or you got a transformer at the building. If you have a commercial building, you might have multiple transformers, depending on the different systems in that building. But it all runs on 60 hertz. The frequency stays the same, but the load might demand a certain amount of, power based on the peaks and valleys of those waves. This is the bottom line to it. Anyway, the bottom line is, man, if we really want positive change, and we want to use, like, right, let me ask you guys something. Who thinks, put a 1 in the chat if you think the government is trustworthy. This is going to be simple. If you think the government is trustworthy, put 1 in the chat. Realize says there's 173 people. Yeah, y'all can hit the like button, can't you? Double tap the screen. Put a 1 in the chat. 0. If the government is trustworthy, put a 1 in the chat. Okay. I appreciate that, Tony. I mean, I'm just trying to help come to an understanding. I don't know how we got to that. So we got 2 people so far that thinks the government is trustworthy. And you are You are in the minority, my friend. Now, if the government is not trustworthy, do you think that voting for who you believe is the right person, do you think that's going to make it better? Like, let's say Marjorie Taylor Green or Jasmine Crockett or a JFK or anybody like that, anybody that is trying to expose. Do you think exposing the corruption is going to work out for them? Put a one in the chat if you think that getting the right people in place is going to make things better for the people. Or put a 2 in the chat if you think that the entire system is corrupt and trying to get the right person in there is going to is not really going to work out, because then you'd have to add these things that you guys are talking about, term limits, all these different things, right? So we got some 1s, we got some 2s, because you guys, you know that they have tried these things before. We've had the right people trying to get in government and trying to make positive change. But in order to have term limits, Walt Truman, you have to amend the Constitution. And in order to get a proposal to amend just to get a proposal, you need 2/3 of the state or 2/3 of Congress in the House, in both the House and the Senate, just to propose an amendment. And then once, let's say the proposal goes through, you now need 3/4 of the state and 3/4 of the legislature. So now you have to convince the people that are in government, that are enjoying the fact that there are no term limits. That means they get to stay in power longer. That means they get their 6-figure salaries for longer. That means they get their great health insurance that we pay for longer. They stay in control longer. You think that 3/4 of the states, 3/4 of the states' legislatures. So that means that you need 3/4 of each state legislature to agree, and then 3/4 of those states, of the total amount of states. So you have to put in term limits, right? You think that's going to work? You think putting in term limits is going to work when you have other apparatuses and you have other safeguards in place, right? Like the Federal Reserve, controlling the money supply. You got lobbyists, right, that work for the special interest groups and the corporations that are constantly in the halls of Congress throwing money in these people's faces. So we have to send them to Washington, right? We got to send the right people in Washington and hope they don't take crooked money for these donations, because guess what? The people that they're running against, well, they're going to take the money from the lobbyists and they're going to get more funding. They're going to get a bigger push. They're going to get, right? They're going to get more behind them because they are taking the money from so your person can't take that money. They can only take your money. Well, guess what? Every person that runs, they take money too from the people. They get donations from constituents. They get money from constituents. But see, you don't give them no more money once they're in office. Once they're in office, now the special interest groups and the corporations, they're giving the money while they're in office to put forth legislation and to make decisions based on what they want that work for them and not for the people. You mixed beard compliments your eyes perfectly. Oh, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Nikki Barnes. Willie Wallace says tons of unelected government employees. Yes. So that's what your right person has to contend with. They have to contend with the special interest groups. They have to contend with their party, the RNC and the DNC. Yeah, the Republican National Convention and Democratic National Convention are corporations. So this is what it takes. So you don't. It's not just going to take term limits. You got to put in place term limits. You got to get the lobbyists out. But that means that your representatives are solely earning off of their salary that you pay them, and that's it. That's it. They're just taking their salary, whatever it is, whatever their figure is. And if they're investing, that's cool. They can invest, they can do this, they can do that. But at the end of the day, you have to remove certain things. And then you have to repeal the 1913, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. You gotta get rid of that as well. Your right person has a lot to do. And when that right person gets in there and they start talking that shit, well, they get left out in the cold. They get ostracized from their party, or they get taken out. And when they get taken out, when they get ostracized, no one comes in and the people will not stand up. See, that's the first thing. The first thing we got to do is we got to grab our own nuts. We have to be able to rise up as a people and let them know, look, we ain't taking this shit. Look, we got this person right here. Yeah, we're going to back her up. Yeah, y'all need to get y'all shit together. We're not going to do that, though. Ross says that would be Ron Paul. Well, look what happened to Ron Paul. He's a libertarian. His son Rand Paul is he's not. Listen, Ron Paul didn't get a lot done at all. Ron Paul was but one man. Rand Paul is but one man. Lizzie Cat says Louisiana is a good example of that. It's still a pirate colony, especially with politics. Sukai says, and I'm 5'2", female, age 23. Well, that's what's up, Sukai. Well, Marjorie Taylor Green been talking shit. Marjorie Taylor Green has been... You have to understand, she's a Republican, right? You can't rise against the fleet. Yeah, we can. Oh, no, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. That's why we all need to come together, right? If we want to put the right people in place, if we want to try to use the system as it exists today to make positive change for the people, we can't just send the right person up there. That's not how this works. We have to, the representatives that are people that are supposed to represent us are not being held accountable by the people. When we vote for them and they go up there and do some silly, stupid ass shit, we just sit back and say, oh, I voted for the wrong person. Well, guess what? I'm gonna write for the right person in 2 years. So you're gonna wait 2 years and hope that somebody comes along that's gonna do the right thing to vote again. A representative is just that. Someone who represents your interest and your needs. Okay, so now what you need to do, you send that person up there, you hold them accountable. But if they in Washington and you're in Idaho, are you going to take your ass to Washington every time they're in session? No. And guess what? You're just one constituency. So you got one representative doing the right thing, trying to do the right thing by one constituency in her district. So there you go again. Anything that she proposes that looks like it might help people out, it's going to get shot down. It might not even go to the floor. No, people won't do it. That's what I'm talking about. I am deliberate and afraid of nothing, says Lizzie Cat. That's what's up. She spewed a lot of hate over the years. We can't just back her up right away. No, I agree with that. But when I understand that, right? But when she says the right things, you're going to hold on to that hate that she spewed, and it's not going to get anywhere because you're focused on some shit she said in the past, right? Well, if she's trying to do the right thing right now, if she's saying the right things right now, we need to back her up. It doesn't matter what she said. That's what I'm talking about. We're not going to do it because, you don't like some of the things she said in the past. That's what I'm talking about. You get what I'm saying? Like, even people that don't spew hate, I don't agree with everything they say. Bernie Sanders, for all intents and purposes, didn't spew hate. But I don't like none of the shit he said. Not none of it. What I'll say is, see, Bernie Sanders, people like that, right? These socialists, right? That it just doesn't work in the regard of you're relying on the government to push and enforce socialist policies, but it's the government doing it, right? Well, what that ends up turning into is communism, because the government is always going to operate capitalistically, and its people are going to have whatever system they believe they have, right? So in China's a communist country, but the government is capitalistic, right? The government is for profit. They extract the wealth and they distribute the wealth as they see fit. And any profit that comes in, because all the companies and all these Chinese companies are basically government companies, and they reap all the profits. But their people live as communists. Look at Russia and see how that worked out. Shawa says, not only will the people not do it, they won't do it in mass. No, they won't. Because we're too divided. We're too divided. Yes, the division is intentional. We are divided on issues that don't draw attention to what's actually happening. Exactly. If I'm muttering, why are you here? Here you go. Let me help you out. Go sit at the kitty table in my blue blood voice. Goodbye in my BFTB voice. Lizzie Cat says the problem is that we start society liking all the eggs in one basket. Yes. And it doesn't work on a large scale, right? We try to, the government is too large. Yes, they're stuck in the left-right paradigm. The government is too large, right? You have too few people trying to represent or control a large group of people. You cannot represent 535 people cannot represent the needs of 350 million people. Am I a Naga cult member? I don't know what that is. I don't I don't run with cults in groups. My solution is get rid of government. Decentralize. You start with decentralizing the government because it's fucking useless and it's dangerous. But you got to do it strategically. So I've talked about it many times. I've spoken about my solutions many times. And you can't do it overnight. So you have to decentralize the government. You have to remove certain apparatuses, right? You got to get rid of corporate welfare. You got to end that. You got to get rid of the IRS. You got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. You have to remove these controls, right? You have to remove the controls, decentralize government. But first, you got to bring all the troops back. to the United States. You got to bring them back. You got to get them out of there. You got to get them out of all these military installations all over the world. We need to get bring their asses back. Have them guard the nation while we go through this process. Right? So because of the over 200 years this government has been in place, and the 200 years of atrocities they've committed all over the world, we have created way too many enemies. Right? We have all these other superpowers that are essentially our enemies that would take advantage of if they see, okay, look what they're doing look what's going on with they're going to take advantage of it. So you have to bring the troops back. The troops have to be prepared to defend the nation while we go through this process of decentralizing the government. Yes, we're going to have to use the government-ran U.S. military to ensure that we're not under attack while we decentralize the government. Then you got to go, it has to be a step-by-step process. And then you go back to state powers and you break it down from there over time. Right? So once you go to state powers, well, each state operates as an independent nation. Right? It is an empire, says Jim Ludaco. I'm starting to sound like Trump. I don't know how. When did Trump ever talk about getting rid of the Federal Reserve and the IRS? How am I sounding like Trump? When did Trump say that he wants to go back to state powers? So you go back to state powers. Salute to Glenda Veal. Ross says exactly what the Austrian painter did. He did what in 3 years? So you go back to state powers. No, I'm not MAGA. No, I'm not MAGA. You go back to state powers and you break it down from there. But see, when you go back to state powers, you got interstate commerce, you got all these different things that were established by the central government, right? Or that the central government oversaw. Well, you're going to have to start creating treaties because each state operates independently. You need trade agreements. You need treaties, right? Amongst the states. You don't need the central government for that. You can do that amongst each state can operate in that manner with each other. As of right now, I mean, the states we're not enemies, right? We're all Americans. So essentially it should be possible to create treaties and trade agreements. You can have liaisons, you can have people in place to kind of help negotiate that. But those people are not going to be controlling anything. They're just acting on the behalf of the states. So you create treaties and trade agreements to keep things flowing, right? So it's not such a shock to the people because it's going to be a shock. So you want to try to mitigate that. You want to try to reduce the shock as you reduce government, as you break it down, as you create more sovereign communities and that operate independently of each other, but in concert with each other. Because it's possible without government, right? We have all these things in place. We got the infrastructure. We got interstate highways that are already in place. We got trains. You got airports. All these things can still operate. It just has to be strategic. It's going to be a lot of resistance. It's going to be, and then you break it down from there. You continue to decentralize, right? You take it down from state powers and go to individual communities. It takes time. And then at the end of the day, it's still going to be dangerous, right? You have to release all the federal lands that the government feels like it owns all this land, all these national parks. They make you pay permission slips to go camping. You have to, you got to release that. You got to, listen, the land belongs to the land. The land is the land, right? It is what it is. It doesn't belong to a centralized government that determines and dictates who gets to go and enjoy it. No. It's there for it's life. Everyone should go live in the woods. Some people ain't gonna want to live in the woods. Some people gonna want to stay in the city. So the people that want to stay in cities and stay in whatever type of rural, whatever they want to do, you just once you release all these federal lands, all these state lands that they feel like they own, they control, you know, it's over 90% unoccupied space in this country. We're just concentrated in certain parts, right? And then in the rural areas, you got people spread out. Well, there's way more unoccupied land than there is occupied land. Well, staying in the city is, some people will still have the capabilities to stay in it. Like, it just got to make it work. There is enough woodland. Sometimes it won't be woodland. Sometimes it'll be plains. Our ancestors, they lived in plains. They lived in savannas. They lived in deserts. They lived in wooded areas. They lived in jungles. It is what it is. Like, you can build shelters. That's what houses are for, where air conditioning. Those things will still exist. You think if the government goes away, then all of a sudden we're going back to the Stone Age? No. The government is going to send us back to the Stone Age. What's my nationality? I am American. I'm an indigenous individual from the land they call the United States. Sukai says, yes, that's correct. There are more human population than woodland. There are more human population than woodland? I don't think that's true. Right? Because I live in South Carolina. There's plenty of woodland. There's plenty of woodlands in South Carolina that they're trying to tear down to build all these factories and shit. There's plenty of woodlands here. There's not people living in every inch of the woods. No, we're all concentrated. People are concentrated, right? A salute to you, Rita. Thank you. I appreciate that. Here come these dudes obsessed with my... Y'all dudes are obsessed with... Why are y'all so obsessed with my looks and my race? That's some rainbow riding bullshit that you got going on there. Yeah, it's one state, but it's also Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee. Most of the Southeast has more woodlands than there are people to occupy them. Thomas DeVerney says that's bullshit. What's bullshit? I gotta get out of here. Yes, Black Spring. I think that, yes, South Carolina is beautiful. There are plenty of, even in Texas. Like, Texas is so expansive. It's some of it's desert, some of it's woodland. You got a lot of different types of climates and regions in Texas and California. Just take a drive cross country. You don't see people covering every inch of ground in the United States. That is a lie they sold you. They sold you the overpopulation lie. No, they are stacking and packing you in these areas, and they're saying you're overpopulating. Yes, Shawa, exactly, Shawa. Shawa says she drives trucks cross country. There are miles and miles of open land. Unoccupied. You won't have any land to go to if they do away with public land. No, most people are going to want... Listen, they have conditioned people to want to remain in cities. And, people are naturally congregate. They're going to build their own towns and communities, because they're going to want to... Even if you homestead, right? You're going to clear out. People are going to be closer together. You're not... Y'all think that a human being is going to cover every inch of land if we get rid of government? This is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous concept. Where do you grow food? Wherever there's rich soil. Wherever there's soil, you grow food. People grow food right now. How do you think that people eat? You think if the government goes away, there won't be food? We won't be able to grow food without government? This is, man. You know, all the monocropping and all that bullshit that's going on right now is only because of government. The lack of biodiversity, the deaths of millions and millions of animals, the displacement of so many animals is because of government. You know, biodiversity, there's a reason for that. The ride from Sumter to Myrtle Beach, lots of woodlands. Yes. Everywhere. You know, the obstacle now is, well, do I have money to buy a certain amount of land? Right? But then you got permits, you know, you got to do all these different things. You got to get government permission slips. And then you got to pay property tax. Look at the population growth over the last 100 years. Yes, there will be homestead every 10 acres. There really, and so what if there was? Oh God! All right, I gotta get out of here. I mean, it wouldn't be every 10 acres of land get covered with concrete every day. That's not true. Where are you getting this from? That's crazy. We're going to cover every piece of land with concrete? That's wild. Covered by concrete every day. Then why don't people do that now? People that buy land in homestead, why don't they cover every goddamn bit of land with concrete? See, it's the corporations that do that. It's the government that allows them to do it. It's the government that encourages them to do it. No, Jim Ludakis says they do what? Homesteaders, they pour concrete all over their land? That's what you're telling me. Y'all are wild. Massive concrete sacred landscapes? Shower says, who's buying up land, buying up houses at an alarming rate? BlackRock. 15-minute corporate cities. Yes. 15-minute cities. Yes. They want you to have everything that you need within 15 minutes of your house. And they will stack and pack your ass. Yeah, because all these homesteaders, they're buying up land and they're pouring concrete all over the land. This is asinine. I gotta get out of here. Y'all are crazy. Anyway, thank y'all for coming through. Gotta roll on out. But I appreciate you guys for stopping in and, you know, giving me this conversation. And whether you agree or disagree, it's always good to have these conversations. You know what I'm saying? Social credit scores. Wait till those social credit scores come through. Oh yeah, y'all gonna love that. Yeah. Wait until they start shutting your cars off if you don't pay your bill. Yeah, go on ahead. Yeah, keep thinking the government is such a great thing. When they got your ass locked up in your house because you didn't go to work, or they cut off your goddamn credit, you can't go buy nothing because of whatever they feel, because you cussed or something like that, because you said you don't like Donald Trump or his predecessor. Oh, I don't like that president. Oh, you heard it? Y'all seen Demolition Man? Go ahead. Keep believing in government. We're going to head straight toward Demolition Man society. It's going to be Demolition Man all over the place. Go on ahead with that. Go on ahead. Keep on with it. Yeah, talk about predictive programming. Keep it up. Keep placing your faith in these people. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna be in demolition man society. This already started. They showed you what a soy boy was before the word soy boy came out. Yeah, keep on up with it. Keep going. Yeah. Yeah. Keep having faith in this government. When you lose 30 credits for saying shit, don't say I didn't tell you. When you see 3 seashells in the toilet above your toilet instead of goddamn toilet paper, you don't know how to use that shit, don't say I didn't tell you nothing. All right, man. I'll at y'all later. Much love. Like, share, subscribe. And, 83 likes is diabolical, but it is what it is. Maybe y'all can hit the like button on the way out. Much love, like, share, subscribe, and we're going to keep